yoga, samati, samatvam? Yeah. Uchate. Uchate means is said. That's passive of the irregular verb vach, to speak. So uchate is past. So yoga karmasu kausalam, and then yoga samatvam uchate. So, with Sandhi, that'd be yoga samatvam uchate. Because, the ma and the vowel always fuse together. And I must say, I didn't get a hearing aid until I retired from teaching. And I know that the last couple of years, people would ask me questions and I wouldn't understand what they were saying because I can't hear. But I would just make up something, right? I would answer some question. It may not have been, it was probably not the question that the person asked. But at least, I don't know. So I'm sorry if I don't hear them.
What verse? We're in chapter 2, correct?
Yeah, we're in chapter 2. I think we the Ashwarya, did we the like
either 229 or 230.
I think
30,
it's
230.
Yeah.
It is. It's 2:30.
230. Oh, okay.
Just say I think.
Yeah,
it is,
sure.
but it's-
Did we do 30 day?
I actually kind of do know.
Okay.
I
By the
can't-
way, Kendra, that class has the best Om. Oh, really good Om, right? Yeah. So let's do that chant at the end, the last verse, or the way they sort of sum up. I'll do it once, and then everybody. Om Tat Sadati Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yogo Nama Dvitiyo Dhyaya. Everyone. Om Tat Sadati Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yoga Nama Dvitiyo Dhyaya. Okay. All right. So we're to what, 30, did you say, or 31?
Yes. 230.
30, okay. And who has prepared? Anyone? Okay, Ben has, all right.
I made a meaningful attempt. Dehi nityam avadyah ayam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shochitum arhasi.
Very perfect. Very good. Broke Sunday, everything.
Like, O Bharata, O Arjuna, the one who possesses the body is eternal.
Okay, so Dehi's the subject.
Yeah, like the body haver.
The body haver.
Is nitya, endless or eternal, or
Constant. I think nitya is more like continual.
Continual. Oh yeah.
So a lot of people have translated eternal, but it's more just constant.
Okay. Everlasting or something, or
Yeah, everlasting.
maybe. But still,
Yeah, that sounds too Christian to me.
They probably got it from the Gita. And
Avadyo.
that one is like deathless, like
You can't kill it.
Yeah.
But you can't. Yeah, they're getting ready. You know, they're still in the middle of the battlefield, getting ready to kill each other. So it can't be killed, right? So remember
Yeah.
Arjuna's depression or whatever it was.
And that's all who.
He's answering Arjuna's questions, right?
Yeah.
His arguments why he shouldn't fight. He said, well, this one is the inner self is, you can't kill it. It's not going to.
And thus, Sarva Bhuta, all beings, all of them, plural.
Sarvasya.
Sarvasya Bhutani, like.
But then you get, you get Sarvasya first, and then you get Sarvani Bhutani.
Sarvani Bhutani, all these beings.
Well, Sarvani Bhutani is accusative. Remember, the neuter, plural neuter, is the same as the nominative. The accusative plural neuter is the same as the nominative plural neuter.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah.
As opposed to the masculine or feminine.
Okay.
They change. They have a mo at the end. But the neuter, Sarvani Bhutani. So, first of all, it's the day he. Let me just back up for a second. As most of you know, one of the great disputes, not just in Vedanta, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the philosophies that come out of them, but also in Buddhism, there's dispute about the end of the self, the consciousness. Right? And the Buddhists have the anatta or anatman. There is no nugget self. And in Vedanta, a lot of the Gita it's the same in everyone, right? There's a spirit or self that is embodied in all living things. But then there's a big dispute. Well, then what is the individual? What is the individual? So the Gita is unfortunately quoted in favor of one view or another, and it's not really clear exactly what position it has about the individual self. The sort of settled opinion is there is a subtle body, and it goes back to the Upanishads. We were talking about the koshas. It's like cylinders or something. There's the physical kosha, and then there's the internal to that is the pranic kosha, the cylinder, and internal to that is the lower mind shared with animals, and then the higher mind, and then the ananda, the bliss kosha, and then there's the self, there's the spirit. Now, but in the Taittiriya Upanishad, where they bring this up for the first time in the history of Indian literature, world literature, it's not just concentric cylinders. They say suffusing inner, but also suffusing the outer. So it's I don't know, it's like inner but also universal. Sort of, there's the physical, and then there's the pranic, but the way pranic contains the physical.
Yeah.
The universal pranic and the universe. So I don't know. It's a little
like the wrapper around the soul
The
isn't
wrap-
made of something other than the soul.
yes, the wrapper, but the wrapper, I don't know, merges into the universal in every case anyway. And then eventually the Vedantics and the Vedantins and the Buddhists both switched to a different model, the chakra model. Chakra, right? The chakras, the ajna and the anahata and the sahasrara, 3 fingers above, and you feel that place, the split, the Brahmarantra. They call that Brahmarantra. I don't know what they call that in Buddhism, but the little split in the back of your head where the divine Shakti goes up. Anyway, they get a different model eventually. Okay, that was very good. Anybody prepare?
We didn't mention though that they are unworthy of your lament or your.
Oh yeah, nasochitu marhati.
Your mourning.
No. Therefore, look, because it's the idea is dehi, that which has a body, is constantly is never. You can't kill it.
Mm-hmm.
This one, ayam, dehe, in the body, in this body right here. In the case of everyone, sarvasya,
Yeah.
everyone is like that. Oh, bharata, tasmat, therefore. Then the accusative sarvani, the subject comes in arhasi, the C is second person, you. So you should not grieve about sarvani bhutani, about anyone.
Right.
And again, this is, the sort of overarching idea is just what Kendra mentioned in her class, the Leela. There's this great play going on, and hey, if you have the right attitude, it's delightful. This seems terrible. I hate to say this. It sounds like, the Germans singing God's on our side, and the French and the English are saying God's on our side, and they're shooting each other. It's almost too much in the middle of a war to talk about you shouldn't grieve and hey, play your part. Woo!
Yeah.
Sounds a little, I don't know, insensitive. But it is what it is. So I guess we go on. Okay, 31.
I'll read it.
Okay.
I didn't translate it.
Okay, well
Did
you
anybody
can
else
you can
translate
translate it on the spot. Anybody else?
No,
Okay.
Svadarmapi.
No, swadharmam,
Mam
accusative singular.
swadam-
Then
yes,
ma is the accusative singular.
Svadarmamapi.
Uppy, swadharmam, uppy.
Api. Okay, that'd be a short A then?
And then you remember cha is and
Uh-huh.
cha and equals ah. So this one's hard. Cha,
Chavekshya.
cha,
Chavekshya.
cha, veshya.
Okay. I'm not good at the Sunday yet. Okay, so just and. Chavekshya.
Aveshya.
It's two short A's.
Chavekshya. Navikam Piturmar.
And then the ma is the easiest consonant to have sandhi in, right? And it's always, so vikampitum, and then the hidden arhati, arhasi.
Vikampitum Arhasi.
Exactly.
Dar, and then would it be a short A?
No, this is ablative singular, which is the at, dharmat, and the ta changes the da before a soft he. So this is really a hard sandhi. It's dharmat he, which changed to dharmadi.
That is right.
It's a hard sandhi.
D.
Dharmat he means for the reason of. Dharmat.
You, and then would this be two short A's then?
Yudot. See,
Yudot.
dharmyat is an adjective. Yudyat is a battle. So a righteous battle. Shreyo is, and that's another very hard sandhi. The ta in yudyat and the sha in shreya becomes yudat shreyo. That's a really hard sandhi. At shreyo. Anyat. Anyat.
kshatriyasya.
Yeah, that's the warrior.
Kshatriya.
No, vidyate.
Vidyate.
So, this is my first time reading out loud the Bhagavad Gita with the intent to understand the Sanskrit. So, I have a question of procedure. Do we have to know to read the sandhis? I mean, with what you're doing, to be able to read it accurately?
Well,
Or are you doing this to practice?
well,
I'm saying in general,
Just general?
are you in general? Because I don't know.
Oh yeah, just because I'm trying not to look at I'm trying to read the Devanagari, so for me it's just practice in that regard, but breaking up the words is different.
personally, I would prefer to have a version of the Gita where the sandhi was already broken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because to actually learn the Sanskrit, you need to know the words.
Right.
And you can't find the words until you break the sandhi.
And the roots change.
Yeah, you need to know the words. And so I would, but if you totally ignore sandhi, and we had a version that had it already broken, like I think Winthrop Sargent breaks the sandhi, then you miss the poetry altogether, because the poetry requires the sandhi. So it swadharmam api chaveksha navi kampitumar-hasi dharmyatish yudashreyo anyat kshatriyasya navidyate. I mean, that was hard for me to read because I just tend to, in my head, break sandhi, and so it's hard for me to actually read the sandhi sometime. But some of these are really beautiful with, as a verse. And like I say, you can't get the sense of the poetry if you break the sandhi, but you can't read it without breaking the sandhi.
I think the big clue to you would be if you get in a squirrely mood and you want to look up the words, you'll see that you just can't unless you break the sandhi. Right, like you just won't know what word to look up, and you won't be able to look up the
That's
word
right.
unless you grab that chart, which I did put on that little folder. You can find a little chart, and if you ever want for funsies to like look at it together, I can show you how.
But that's a terrible list. That's the word the most
It's hard.
impossible to understand
The sandhi.
collection of sandhi rules. I'm sorry. I mean.
What else do you do?
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's some Sanskrit textbooks that do a little better job, I think, than just that table. I don't know. You might. There are some. There are some Sanskrit grammars.
They give you a logic to it, like
They give you, partly is learning. Let's do the alphabet again.
Yeah.
Just the consonants.
Yeah.
The first two, in the consonants, right? We have the gutturals, ka ka ga ga, right, and then the palatals, the linguals, the dentals, and the labials. We have 5 classes, right?
Yeah.
Now the first 2, and each of those have a pair, ka ka ga ga, and then a nasal, right, and so each of the 5 classes is composed of 5 letters.
Yeah.
And the letters are, the first 2 in each class are hard, and the second 2 are soft, and the nasals are soft. And the first k is unaspirated, and then the second one is aspirated. K. K, right? And then, and the next one, ch, j, right? T, g, da. Okay, so we have aspirate, so the pairs are unaspirated, aspirated, right? Unaspirated, aspirated, and it's hard, soft, like that for all 5. Now, the rule is only hard consonants can come together at the end of a word. I mean, at the end and beginning of a word. If it's a soft, if it's a soft consonant, the second word, then you change the ending consonant of the first word to the corresponding hard.
Yes.
That's a rough rule.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some exceptions to that rule. I remember we went to a party once when I was in graduate school, and there was some rule about changing the dental "n" to the lingual "n," and you do this whenever any of the "r" sounds, including "re," "come," and this happens when so long as they're in blah 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 blah. The tip of the tongue. I had this rule memorized, and I said it at a dinner party, and some woman came up to my wife and said, "Poor girl." That I would take the trouble to memorize such an arcane rule. And also another thing is, in India, they don't really teach Sunday rules. It's like, come here. Would you teach somebody come here? You wouldn't teach that. It just gets to be natural. Like it's a sort of natural melding of the sounds. So, nevertheless, I would prefer that we didn't have Sunday, because we're trying to understand what's being said, and you can't do that without breaking Sunday. There's my little Sunday speech for today. Okay, let's move on. And
So did you mean that like the soft would become the hard, like ka-ka-ga, so ka would then become a ga?
No, the change is always from hard to soft. You don't
Oh, hard to
upgrade.
soft.
You don't.
I see. Okay.
You don't change from soft to hard. So it goes the other way around.
Okay.
Also, if a vowel begins a word, then the last consonant also changes to soft.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're at. So we did this one. So you see that the dharmyat modifies yudat, right? See, those are both ta at the end. That's ablative singular. So better, shreya. I know that's hard to see, but if you look it up in the dictionary, it'd be shreya, better. So for a kshatriya, genitive singular, for a warrior, there's nothing better than a righteous war. I don't know. What's better? I think maybe no war would be better. There's a righteous war, right? But here's another thing to remember about this verse and some of the ones coming up, is that Arjuna is given reasons why he doesn't want to fight. If you go back and look at those reasons, Krishna is countering one by one those reasons. Arjuna says it's not dharmic. And well, Krishna said, well, it is dharmic. There's one thing after another that Arjuna has argued sincerely, Krishna is countering here in this Sankhya section. And just, I think in verse 39, it's going to shift to yoga. And you'll feel more at home with what's being said.
Did we translate the first line of that?
Do we translate what?
The first line of that shloka?
The first line is,
Both Swadharma.
aveksha is a participle that takes swadharmam as object, and api means even. So, and aveksha, iksh is the root, and ava is a verbal prefix, so you know that and e in an internal sandhi means a, so that's aveksha, and that means something like considering. Okay, and considering even your own dharma, like you were complaining about earlier, you still shouldn't be shaking. Because why? He, dharmyat, yudyat, for a kshatriya, for a warrior, what could be better than a righteous war, when you're in the right. And I don't know, to me that's really important that this is a dharmic war, that they are on the right side. Okay. And he goes on in this vein, right, in the next one, right? Yat richaya cha upapanam swargadwaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha labante yudam idrisham. That's the same idea. Look, you're lucky. Yadrichatriya. That's by chance, hey, by good fortune, by fortune. Upapanan, it's happened. The door to glory has opened. Warriors are happy who obtain such a battle, where they're in the right. They're very happy. They're sukhina. And then, again, he's arguing, right? You almost need to go back, like in Nagarjuna Vigraha Vyarvartani, you have the 20 arguments of the opponent, and then you have, 70 or some odd verses where Nagarjuna answers. And you have to remember, it's a little hard to read the Vigraha Vyarvartani because you have to remember what the argument was. You almost need to go back and look at what Nagarjuna is complaining about to see why Krishna is arguing this way, right? And because he says, Atta, okay, I'll give you another argument. Atta chet, then if chet, tvam, you, imam dharmyam, this dharmic conflagration, if you don't do it, you earlier argued about how it would be terrible, your reputation would suffer and so on. Well, let me tell you about what your reputation is going to happen. Hitwa, you're going to, abandoning your duty, your swadharma, right? There's this idea that there's a lot of course, there's some dissent about this, but Swadharma means your individual role in the great play. Your little part in it. Giving up that, right? Giving up your part in the great play, right? That you talked about sin. Arjuna is the one that brought up sin. Personally, I don't like the word pop, right? Sin. It doesn't occur very much, only in this chapter. But that's when you're going to get sin. If you give up your swadharma, that's what's sinful, is not to do what you're supposed to do, play your part, which is to go out and kill these people. Oh. Again, it sounds a little crass. Okay. Papam. My guy Abhinavagupta is a Shaivite. He doesn't pause at this stuff. But some of the Vaishnavites, they get into this. Oh, Papaka, I'm so sinful, I'm such a worm. But so there are different attitudes towards this. Anyway, Swadharmam. Okay, so 34. Yeah, Akirtim cha. See again, cha api. Akirtim cha api bhutani. Kathayishanti, future. Te avyayam. So see, avyayam, the akirtim, again, that ma sound is the sign of the accusative, the object case, and it's feminine. And avyayam is also feminine. Even though that word comes at the end, it's modifying akirtim. So unceasingly, and these beings were going to unceasingly or talk about your lack of fame, your ignominy, right? Your infamy, right? That you just collapsed here on the battlefield. And that's particularly to sambhavitasya. I had a little trouble with that word because sambhavana is such a positive word. In sambhavana is like enlivening, and they often talk about in the Upanishads and other yogic texts enlivening your meditation, enlivening your heart, bringing it up, enthusiastic. Like rarely have I seen such sambhavana as in your all's yoga classes. Really, heart into it. And it's like, a person who is like that, you're like that. For such a person, sambhavitasya, not, fame or ill fame, ignominy for a person who has been enlivened like that. Well, death, that's worse than death. That's worse than dying. That's just, right? Bayat, fear, ranat, battle, uparatam, ceased. Manya, they will think, not that you're doing it from fear. I grant you're doing it maybe from ahimsa, from noble reasons, is slinking down and refusing to fight. But they're going to say you did it from fear. Bayat, that's fear. Ranat, in battle. Uparatam, sitting down. Manyante, those guys, the Maharata are the great warriors, right? Who have Rata as chariot. Maharata, that's a Bahuvri suffix. Remember, it's those who have great chariots. Mm-hmm. For them, Yesham, that's a subordinate pronoun. Yesham, for whom for those people, you will, yasyasi, right? That's the verb. You is twam is the subject of the sentence. You will come to, for them, bhuto, mahabhato, you were thought very highly of. Having been thought very highly of, you will come to nothing, Laghavam. Right? Yeshan, for whom bhutwa is, those, they're called continuatives. They're nothing like that. It's not really a participle. It's a verbal form that you can do just about anything with. It's like maybe sometimes called a gerund, but actually it's in a category by itself. And so bhutwa, so having been thought highly of on the part Yesham, you will come to be just, they'll talk about you as, nothing, Laghavam. So they will slight you. Again, he's arguing against, you have a question?
We were in 35.
35?
Yeah, Laghavam is the last word of 35.
Okay.
Laghavam.
I had the wrong
Yesham
one, so
tum.
I'm really lost here.
Okay, Yesha chatum mahabhato bhutva yasati Laghavam. You'll come to nothing. Okay. All right. Let me go through. These are all the same sort of. Avachavaram shavahun vadishanti tava ahita nindatas tava samartyam tato dukkataram nukim. And these other people, the guys on the other side, who by the way include Drona, his teacher, and Bhishma, the great grandfather who helped raise Arjuna. Well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say terrible things about you, things that shouldn't be said. blaming nindatasya tava, your ability, samarthyam, tato, then that, dukatana, what could be worse than that? What could be worse than that? And tava ahita, I had trouble with that because, you know, when you have and when you have an there how many combinations? It could be the Sunday could be and it could be and it could be and it could be and
Right.
They all result in and equals and equals and equals and equals . So I thought this was ahita, but it's ahita, which means hita means good, your welfare. In fact, there's a famous verse where it says, "The enlightened person sarva hite is delighted." Rata, the enlightened person delights in the welfare of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So ahita means something like your enemies. Your enemies are going to say terrible things and, you know, slander your ability. What could be worse than that? Hato va prapsati swargam jitwa. If you get killed, you're going to go to heaven. Or if you're victorious, you will enjoy the earth. Tasmat, therefore, uttishta, stand up, up. Sta, and this is imperative. That's tishta, uttishta, stand up. Kaunteya, Arjuna. Yudaya, dative, to fight. Krita, nishchaya, bahuvri, compound. Be one who has certainty, who's confident. Stand up and be confident. And then we get a little bit of yoga, or maybe not. Maybe it really doesn't come into the mix after 39, where he says we shift. Sukha dukkhe same. Here's that equanimity kind of, right? Sukha dukkhe same, some equal kritva, making pleasure and pain the same. Labha labhao, gain and loss. Jaya jayao. Remember, is a prefix meaning not, right? So, alaba, jaya, ajaya, victory, non-victory, tato, making those, being neutral, right? Kind of stoic, right? Isn't that in the philosophy, the Greek philosophy that encourages equanimity? Tato yudhaya yudyasva. Now yujasva, that's actually the root that yoga comes from. And later on there's a refrain that says yoga yukta yudyasva. You practicing yoga, fight. That's really
Yoga, yukta, yujasa. So all three are the same root. Right?
Yeah, yujasva is, you know, practice for fight. It's really do yoga to fight. But later on, yoga yukta, disciplined in yoga, yujasva, fight.
But it's the same root, right? I mean, those yoga and yukta.
No, it's not.
It's not.
So I mistranslated that. So yoga yukta yujasva. Well, no, that yujasva. Yoga yukta yujasva. No, that's yoga yukta yujasva means united in yoga, practice yoga.
Yeah, right.
You're
Yoga.
Yeah. So there's another imperative for fight. Okay, Nitra Papam. You know, because again, I think Papa Sen. Remember, Arjuna complained about falling into sin a lot, and so I think Krishna is mentioning this. counter that. Okay, that's it. Now we get to yoga. Now so we get here 39 is transitional, right? Esha te abhita sankhya buddhir yoga. Tu, see like tu changes the va before any vowel. Tu imam shrinu. This has been said, abhita in Sankhya sort of in the philosophic overview. Now hear this same teaching, or the buddhi, the intelligence in yoga. The person, if you are yukta, practicing yoga with this mindset, buddhi, you will be free from the bandha, the yoga bandhas. They have bandhas, right? That's in Hatha yoga, right? You have the various bandhas. Same idea. The bondage of karma. Remember, that was another argument Arjuna says. It's going to be bad karma. And he says, no, if you practice yoga, and then you will be free from the bondage of karma. And then the next one is one of the great lines of all the Gita, Neha abhikramo nashosti pratyamayo navidyate swapamasya dharmasya trayate matobhyat. There is no effort lost on this path. There is no obstacle. Even the slightest bit, swapam api, dharmasya, of this teaching, dharma, saves trayate from the great fear. Trayate, the slightest bit of this teaching saves from the great fear. I think a lot of the commentators say that's the fear of death. The great fear.
But it's not here though, right? I mean,
It's
not what Arjuna's afraid of.
He's not afraid of death.
That's not what he's
I know, but
yeah,
I know. Yeah, I know. But Krishna's expanding. We're getting the opportunity to get a really broad
He's
teaching.
afraid of like the death of the other people.
That's true.
That's true. And the bad karma. That's right. Of killing the people he loves. Right. Okay.
Professor Phillips, will you say again, I'm sorry, about the difference here between the Sankhya and the yoga?
Well,
Now they're getting into yoga, meaning like you do this action.
yeah, well, yeah. In deference to Ben's love of the Yoga Sutra, I don't want to give my true opinion about Sankhya.
What do I care?
Which is to me, Sankhya is a really trivial, unworkable system of philosophy as Sankhya-Karika. And the Sankhya in the Yoga Sutra is Seshvara Sankhya. They have the Ishvara, and it's not just pure Sankhya like the Sankhya-Karika with it. And it's just metaphysically simplistic, it seems to me, because there's this utter separation of body and mind, of consciousness and matter. And you know, but that's classical Sankhya. This is pre-classical. Classical philosophy begins in India maybe around Nagarjuna, around 100, or maybe a little earlier in the Mimamsa Sutra, maybe 100 BCE. But the Gita is older than that. And they uses the word Sankhya in the way that the Upanishads, for example, the Katha Upanishad, and others use the word Sankhya. And the word Sankhya then just means analysis or take an overview. Try to enumerate all the factors that impinge upon life, and it's not a classical system. It's a very loose idea. And I think, I was talking to my good friend Matthew Dassey, and he says, it really means the same thing as sort of intellectual meditation.
Yeah, just a study.
It's a study. It's an intellectual meditation.
So that's how they're talking about it in the Gita.
In the Gita, that's right. Sankhya is like this yoga for the intellect.
And then now we're getting into the yoga.
Now
side,
we're going to get to yoga, which
like
is
action.
practice, which is action.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to give you the overview. Don't worry, you're going to be reborn. These kings are going to be reborn. You can't kill the true self and so on. These are all very abstract ideas, right? Very universal. And now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what to do to practice yoga.
So is he initially just saying like, let's talk about it. Let's just like have like an understanding of it. But now he's just like, okay, but the yogis are saying the same thing.
Yeah, and the talking again, if you go back and look at what Arjuna argued, you'll see that this teaching is geared to his complaints. So you shouldn't grieve. Get up. Do your duty. But now it's going to get deeper. It's going to be, we're going to come to my favorite part where it's so revolutionary, where he says, those Veda mongers they're just terrible, right? Those people, they give this flowery speech and blah, blah, practice rituals. They talk about going to heaven and getting enjoyments and power. Don't pay any attention to them. So then it starts to be quite a revolutionary teaching. So far you might think, God, it's quite conventional. He's just telling the ethic of the warrior. But, given that it's in Sanskrit and, sort of highbrow language, we're going to get all this, we're going to get about 10 verses of attacking on ritualism and the Veda. So that in the midst of talking about how to practice yoga.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, even the Yoga Sutra and the Sankhya Karika, right? This division that we talk about, it sort of seems present, even in this pre-classical era, this idea that the Sankhya metaphysics, which may be like, we could say that they're primitive, but they're also like primordial in a sense, that a lot builds from that, from later, and that it's almost like an underpinning or an intellectual basis on which to decide to act in a way that even the Yoga Sutra says, well, okay, now understanding this, here are the actions that would lead you to the liberation promised.
Okay.
And you don't have to buy it.
And also in our contemporary setting,
Yes.
one great thing about classical Sankhya, the Sankhya Karika, and also the Yoga Sutra, is the insistence on the reality of consciousness as independent of matter.
Yeah, right.
It's its own thing. Right. It's a dualism, right? Matter is one thing, consciousness is another, and live in your consciousness. Don't worry about. There's at the end of the Yoga Sutra in chapter 4.
Yes.
It's supposed to be the control is on the side of Prakriti, right? Nature does what it does, right? And you can't really control it.
Right.
And even it's supposed to be Prakriti, nature is what's practicing yoga. You're not practicing yoga, nature's practicing yoga.
Right.
But there's a point in chapter 4, I've forgotten exactly what sutra, it says, when you're trying to silence your mind, it says, there is a chitti shakti.
Yeah.
There's a power of consciousness to control the mind, to make it come to silence.
Wow.
The chitta vritti nirodha. So it goes against its own dualistic metaphysics at that point, which to me is very significant when it's sort of like bottom up, it's forced to say something that goes against the rigid dualism that has been promulgated in the earlier chapters.
What do you mean? That it's just saying that there is a have to practice in order to
No.
get there.
He's saying that Chitti Shakti, meaning the
Power of consciousness.
Power of
the
consciousness.
power of consciousness, which has to be Purusha.
Right.
You see, Purusha, the soul itself
That's
is
right.
consciousness, and in so much as we think we have a chitta or a mind, it is animated by
Prakriti.
Purusha, and now he's saying that the Yoga Sutra says, and I'm going to look it up, but
I'm confident. Don't worry.
Good, no,
You can look it up.
that basically in the 4th chapter, there's a point at which somehow that Chitti Shakti has to like flex some volition in order to achieve like focus or attention or
Or Kaivalya.
the stilling of the movements of
The mind.
the prakritic, the moving
So it's saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
Purusha has to do something.
Yeah,
Which is
there
above
is some
Purusha's-
power on
which is
Purusha's
illegal
part.
in pure Sankhya.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Mhm.
And so just to make it clear with everybody, like the Bhagavad Gita is written from like a Vedantic perspective.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Is that
Yeah.
clear?
Is that clear?
excuse me.
Is that clear, or is that just because the theory is
It's just because it's been appropriated by all the Vedantas. Well, look. No. The Gita is, yoga and Vedantic philosophy begin in the Upanishads, and there are probably, I don't know, 15 to 20 Upanishads that were composed and memorized before the Gita. And the Gita definitely echoes, but the Upanishads are maybe not quite so theistic as at least some parts of the Gita. I mean, chapter 3, Karma Yoga, also, the Upanishads are more like maybe the Yoga Sutra, really emphasizing dhyana, meditation, and also secrecy and alone, going off into a cave or so on. And I don't know, the Gita, as I think many people have pointed out, the Gita seems to be bringing yoga to everyone.
Is it almost
Even a warrior in the midst of battle can do yoga.
Yeah.
You don't have to go off to a cave or something. If you have the right attitude, which is karma yoga, do it without regard for the fruit of your works. Do it as an offering, the inner sacrifice. You're doing it for Krishna, for your higher self. You're acting for, you are not building up karma.
Do you think it was written as a refutation to the Upanishads? In the
No,
sense
it was, I think, an expansion of the teaching of the Upanishads to non to the householders and
Non-monastic.
maybe not the masses, I don't know,
Okay.
but because maybe the masses couldn't read Sanskrit or understand Sanskrit, but at least more than these very secretive
monastic.
monastic.
Okay, that's cool.
Right. I mean, you can do yoga no matter what you do. You can do yoga in every moment of your life
So that's cool. in the
if
sense
you have the right attitude.
I think that's neat then in the sense of it being a battle. Everybody's like, why the battle? Why do you have to make it a battle? It's
What could be more difficult to keep your concentration and your right attitude than a battle?
It
Sure
is.
is.
It is, for sure. But it's almost like, this is like in terms of human evolution, this is how it was.
But-
And it's like,
That's the battleground.
it's so intense. I know, it bugs me too.
That's what Gandhi said. He said there wasn't any. The battle is inside. It's all inside. It's all. Personally, I think it was outside too.
Yeah, just historically, that there was a real battle. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so who wants to? Would you like to read, so we had
Okay.
at 40, now we're to 40.
Okay, right after 40, right? That one?
Oh, we read 40, okay, we read 40. 41.
Yeah, Vyavas, there's a Sunday there, right?
Vyavasayatmika. Budir. Eka, remember and E make A, so you break it, it becomes budir. Eka iha. Well, actually, it's going to be eka because it's feminine. Budir is feminine, so it's eka iha. Kurunandana, O joy of the Kurus. Bahushaka. He, remember, E changes the ya before any vowel, so he antascha. Buddhayo Vyavasayinam. So notice the first word is Vyavasayatmika, and the last word is See that avagraha, I don't know if you have that mark here, probably, is the opposite, right? So Vyavasayatmika, I can't remember, does that word occur in the Yoga Sutra? That's like concentrated.
I don't remember.
Vyavasayam is sort of,
I don't think so.
Vyava, it means, concentrated, intense, but intent, so collected, maybe, sort of, resolute. That's a good word.
Mm-hmm.
Resolute. So the buddhi is a mindset. So if you have the mindset that's resolute here in this world, eka, single-minded, it's like ekagrata that's what this idea is. This is the idea of ekagrata, right? Eka agra, one-pointedness of mind. So this is single resolution. And the people that are irresolute, the opposite of Vyavasayinam, that's at the last word in verse 41, those people, well, their buddhis, they're going to have, their mindsets are, that's a plural. Instead of buddhi, a single mindset, resolute, they're going to be all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Buddhi, ananta, they're unending. They're going to have bahushaka, shaka's branches. So they're going to branch out all over the place. I guess thinking about all sorts of things, right? Shopping at Costco's.
Very helpful. She's having a budget mindset instead of a focus mindset.
What's the single point here?
The single pointed eka. See?
No, I mean, what is the single thing that he thinks that Arjuna should be focused upon?
I think the single point, it comes out that what he should be focused on is, it's going to come out more in chapter 3, and also towards the end, is doing what he needs to be done as an offering,
Mm-hmm.
as a gift,
Mm-hmm.
as something that's right. It's a dharmic war, and to do it as perfectly as possible, because you don't want to give a gift that the recipient doesn't like, right? I think some people, I think I mentioned this other time, so they're thieves. I heard about a band of thieves, so, in Calcutta, who, would give a share of their robbery to Kali, right? And they say, oh yeah, we're doing karma yoga. Right, we're doing karma yoga because we're giving a gift. We go rob people, and we give part of it to the goddess. But I think, at least this is the way Shankara and some other commentators take it, is that's not right, because it's got to be beautiful. I mean, you don't want to give an ugly gift.
What if you give a beautiful gift but the person doesn't like it anyway?
Well, you revise.
Yeah, right.
You don't
That's
own the
right.
reception. You only offer.
Right.
Okay.
To be pure of the
You revise.
Yeah, right.
So you don't like petunias? Well, we'll try carnations next
Yeah,
time.
you're right.
And that kind of posthumously proves the purity of your intention
Yeah.
if you're willing to revise.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Wasn't there an aspect too of not accepting gifts?
Excuse me?
Isn't there an aspect too of not accepting gifts? Paragaha?
Yeah, but I think that may be in the context of, Brahmins, the highest caste. Whenever they did a ritual, they got dakshina, they got ritual fees. And, Krishna is going to appropriate the image of the ritual throughout chapters 3 and 4. But it's no longer you get anything for it. Don't be like those Veda mongers who want to get paid for doing these rituals and putting ghee in the fire and so on. It's actually an internal, totally internal. The gift is, there's one place, also Abhinava Gupta has it. He has it. It's like, there's into the fire of Bhairava, Shiva, that's internal. Actually, it's going on all the time, right? There's there's this flow of energies, and Krishna really was quite clear. He said, normally we're taking, we're worried about receiving, and we willy-nilly we give. We can't help but give, because that's just the nature of the universe. The universe is this great flow of giving and receiving, and we're only worrying about the receiving. What you have to do is change and worry about the giving, but without a desire for any gain. It's just to play your part in the great Leela. Again, which, given the circumstances, may seem a little...
Yeah.
Personally, I
What?
am not a Vietnam vet, put it that way.
I have a request.
Uh-huh.
Before we move on to the next verse, would you please read the verse so we can hear the poetry of your
Oh, the poetry of this one?
of each
Yeah.
verse.
Which one would you like for me to read?
Any, just from here on.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, well, this one's memorable, right? Neha Bikramana Shosti Pratyavayo Navidyate Swapamasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhyat. Trayate Mahato Bhyat. Swapamapyasya Dharmasya. Swapamapyasya Dharmasya. That's hard because there's so much Sandhi in there. Swapamasya Dharmasya. Even the tiniest bit of this Dharma saves from the great fear. Bahushaka hyantascha buddhyo vyavasayinam. Right, the next one. Yam imam. Here's starting to cut down the Vedas. Yam imam, or the Vedamam. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschita Vedavadarata partha na anyarasti vadinaha. So, pushpi, the pushpa is a flower. So this flowery speech, yam imam, flowery speech, which these unwise, avipaschita, these ignorant people, Vedavadara, delighted in just, spouting off the Veda, Vedavada. you're this Vada, this Vada, that Vada, Veda Vada. They're saying there's nothing other than the Veda. That's what they're saying, right? And Kamatmanaha Swargapara Janma Karma Pala Pradam Kriya Vishesha Bahulam Bhogaishvaryam Prati. So they want to go to heaven. Now notice that earlier he said you're going to go to heaven in this war, right, if you die, but here he's knocking heaven. Because the Vedavangers say you do these sacrifices, you buy your way into heaven. Mm-hmm. The sacrifices are not cheap. To put on, a Soma sacrifice, or the Agnihotra, you have to, you got to pay 4 or 5 Brahmins to chant the Veda for a few days and so on. That's expensive, right? And so he's saying that, and they tell you you'll get to heaven that way, but that's bullshit. As Krishna is saying, right? They're all there, Kriya Vishesha Bahulam, right? Bahulam, excessive Vishesha details of action, Vishesha details, Kriya action. They give it, and all they're intended on is enjoyment and lordship. Actually for themselves, right? Bhoga Aishvarya Prasaktanam, attached to Bhoga, enjoyment and avash, Taya Apahrita, and by that their intelligence is taken away. And they don't get the samadhi. Here's the first time in verse 44 we get the word samadhi, right? Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Samadhi na vidiyate. Yavasat samadhao na vidiyate. So these people, they're attached to the bhogas, the enjoyments, and power, and their chetas, their intelligence is taken away by that. And then, but Vyavasayatmika means resolute. The resolute buddhi, is not directed to that. I don't know. I got this wrong.
Didn't you sort of take it as single pointed last time? Also,
yeah.
Right? You were looking for it in the Yoga Sutra, which I don't think it is, but you were equating it to Ekaka.
Well, I think the Yoga Sutra borrows from it as we get in the chapter. But let me see how Radhakrishnan translates this one. This is what, number 44. Radhakrishnan, he was president of India. He was an eloquent translator in English.
Did you say Radhakrishnan?
Radhakrishnan. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. So, let's see, 244. So he has it as the intelligence which discriminates between right and wrong of those who are devoted to enjoyment of power. I see. In other words, their buddhi is resolute for bhoga and aishvarya. They're one-pointed, resolute, but it's for bhoga and aishvarya. So that the word vyavasayatmika is resolute, sort of, I think, at least coming close to the notion of ekagrata. But that kind of resolution is not what we're talking about. That's not what earlier resolution was good, but here they're single pointed on the Veda. that's where the mistake is, and they don't make it to samadhi.
Sergeant,
So there are two kinds of resolution. There's resolution to practice karma yoga, and there's this these Veda mongers who think the Veda is the end all and be all. That kind of resolution doesn't get you to samadhi.
now Sergeant takes it the other way, so I don't know if it's ambiguous because you seem to think it was too, but Sergeant is taking it as, right, with the last line being like samadhi is not granted. He's saying that samadhi isn't granted to that one, including being resolute. You see, like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't think so?
I don't think Sergeant's right.
Okay, cool. Well, how do you tell which is being pointed at? Like,
Well,
it seems ambiguous.
I mean,
yeah, right.
for quickness, I go to Radhakrishnan, who's pretty good. But if I'm really concerned with the deeper meaning, I go to Shankara
Great.
and look at what Shankara says.
Right. Yeah.
And would you like for me to look and see what Shankara says on this
I
one?
think it's kind of exciting.
Okay. And so, because he writes a commentary, right, in Sanskrit, and he says, Taya kriya vishesha bahula vacha aprita chetasam achadita viveka prajnanam. In other words, their discriminatory power, prajna, is covered, achadita, and so they do have a resolution, but it's vyavasayatmaka. Oh, I see. Even, okay, it's combination. They've had their intelligence snatched away by all these details of performing the ritual. That kind of resolution, either in Sankhya or yoga, that kind of resolution, sa samadau samiyade asmin purusha upabhogaya sarvamiti samadhi antakaranam buddhi tasmin samadham navidite. Yeah, they don't get the good samadhi.
Is he saying that the Kauravas are like acting in this way?
Excuse me?
No,
Is he
he's
saying? Oh, is he?
talking about Brahmins.
Oh, okay. So he's not relating this to the Kauravas.
The Vedic
No.
priests.
No,
Yeah.
Okay.
no. It's broader, I think,
Okay.
now.
He's saying, navel gazers who sit around.
It's
making
not the navel
rituals.
gazers. These guys, they're chanting all the time.
Yeah, right.
They're chanting and they're throwing ghee into the fire, right? They're doing all this ritual stuff. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Come on, it's actually very beautiful.
It is.
Have you ever seen a Vedic sacrifice? And I mean, in defense of them, you might want to say that it's kind of a cult. They're inviting the various gods and so on, and their mastery of Sanskrit. Gosh, and the rhythms and so on. But he's trying to put into place, it seems, a different kind of concentration that's not tied to these outer sacrifices. That it's an inner sacrifice that you should, a resolution to do what's right, I guess.
Do you think
Your
this
own
was
doormat.
this a little bit like blasphemistic
Yeah, I think this is a little.
for them? For
Yeah, I
like-
think so. I think this is revolutionary, these verses. Or maybe the Gita just contradicts itself, because remember we had those earlier stuff. but it was in Arjuna's voice about caste and so on.
What were you saying, Kelly?
I'm trying to like figure out how to put it into words, but I'm thinking in my mind. So it was a little muttering, rather.
Yeah, like you were asking, like, what's revolutionary about it? Is it in the writing of it, or in the?
On like the writing it down, or the sharing of the
Is it in the translation?
information?
In the information, maybe just in the fact that, like, you know, in the Vedas, there's like this whole like situation of like this, you get higher by making these sacrifices and doing all these rituals.
Right.
And then the Gita is saying, no, it's like it's an internal
It's
thing.
right.
It doesn't have to be all performative.
It's not a
Right.
show.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is there even a hint of a competitiveness between caste here?
Yeah.
Right? Like
You mean like those are the Brahmins and we're the
that's true. You're a
Kshatriyas?
Kshatriya, and not only is this
Yeah.
your duty as a Kshatriya,
So I've
but by
heard-
the way, we got it better.
Right.
I've heard that
It's like
usually,
understand.
yeah, there's some Western scholars who take that line, that this is a caste revolt on the part of Kshatriyas who are tired of, you know, acquiescing to the teachings of all those Brahmins.
I mean, but there's like passages in the beginning of like a lot of like tantras or tantric literature, right, that are oriented to certain deities, where like the beginning is always like, and by the way, you found the good one, you know, like this is the good one, you know, it's all about this deity, this one specific deity that you happen to have happened upon, right?
Yeah.
This is actually the really good one, and they all start that way. So, you know, it's a very, maybe this is the text for Kshatriyas.
Yeah, it could be.
But there is still that internal journey, regardless, that's being promoted as
Yeah.
time goes on.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah.
on the other hand, you know, there is a real universalism when in chapters 3 and 4 it talks about this equality, equal mindedness you're supposed to have, where you don't think an outcast or a Brahmin is any better than an outcast.
Yeah.
You have
Because we're
this
all of the
equal
same.
spiritedness, right? Kind of respect for all beings, right?
Divinity spark.
Yeah.
The welfare of all beings, it's not just Brahmins. So,
You don't have to
yeah.
cover on the market.
So I don't think it's just, you know, Kshatriya championing.
Right.
Anyway, so, well, maybe let's do one more. So what we got? Oh yeah. Bodhisamadha. Okay, we had samadhi for the first time. It was hard. Trigunya Vishya Veda. The Vedas are within the sphere, the Vishya, of the three gunas. Now those are the gunas of Sankhya, right? Tamas, laziness, rajas, overactivity, and sattva, luminosity. But you should be beyond the three gunas. Nishtrigunya bhava. Be beyond the three gunas. Nirdvandvo. Beyond the dualities. Dvandva, dual. Nitya sattvasta. So you should be situated in the sattva guna, the luminous guna. Niyoga kshema, without worrying about getting or possessing. Atmavan, self-possessed. Atmavan.
Why are you saying situated in sattva guna here? Oh, here it is.
Oh.
Nitya sattva.
Yeah.
I see.
Nitya sattva sta.
I see.
Sta is from the root sta, to
sta,
stand,
sta.
and sattva is that guna, and
Yeah.
nitya constantly,
I see.
constantly in the sattvic guna, which, by the way, is not supposed to be for the kshatriyas. That's supposed to be the Brahmins. So that goes against the. Okay, one more because it's so anti-Vedic also. Yavanartha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavat sarveshu vadeshu brahmanasya vijanata. So as much, okay, udapane, that's locative, that's a pond, right? So there's much worth, artha, yavad worth, artha, in a pond that is over, whose water, that's a Bahuvri compound, whose water, udaka, remember, and u make o, so sampluta, that's overflowing on all sides. So much is there in all the Vedas for a Brahmin who sort of really knows the truth. In other words, I think what it's saying is, the pond that's flowing, overflowing, it's not worth much. And so the Vedas are similarly not worth much if you really know the inner spirit. Sometimes Brahmana is not used for caste, but just for a person who is right-minded.
Metaphor being that the well doesn't contain the water, and so what
Yeah,
good is a
doesn't hold the
well,
water.
and
Yeah,
so
the water.
what do the Vedas not contain?
It's just a mess. It's just flowing out on all sides. A well, yeah, a well's better than a pond, yeah, because a pond you might think that's good, it's full. Especially if you live in the desert or Rajasthan or New Mexico. You think it's good to be overflowing. I think there's a negative image here. So, okay, thank you very much. Anurita Mary. Let's have one big om. I tell you, Shankara's commentary is unbelievably easy. He really breaks all he breaks, at least in this edition, that he breaks the sandhi, gives you synonyms for every word, reconstructs the sentence where he puts the subject first and the verb last. And